Hello, my name is Joshua Sullivan, and today I will be presenting a case study on light pollution. So, what have we lost from the glow of artificial light? What economic gains have we seen from artificial light at night? What economic benefits can we see from the pursuit of darker nights? How much is light pollution affecting us? Is it affecting us in ways that we ourselves do not even know it is affecting us? Today, that is what I plan to find out. Light pollution continues to be a silent tragedy of the late 20th and early 21st century, and is a concept that many have not heard about since they were young. They may have heard a mention of it, but many have never heard it talked about as a serious form of pollution in news headlines. This lack of coverage intrigued me, and so for the past year, I have done a fair amount of research on light pollution. I have gone over much of the research and have interviewed some people who I consider to be specialists. If you live in a major city, chances are that you are experiencing light pollution and sky glow. Believe it or not, everybody is supposed to be able to see the night sky, and in all of its glory. Our ancestors navigated by the stars. We co-evolved with the night, and potentially in a way that we cannot fully comprehend or that has been studied thus far. While the theory is interesting, there is evidence that light pollution could be doing more in the immediate present than once believed. Those who are exposed to higher levels of artificial light at night are subsequently more likely to develop sleeping disorders due to melatonin production failure. If you live in a major city, chances are that you are experiencing light pollution and sky glow. Since the 1950s, we have seen an ever more apparent increase in light pollution. First world developed countries continue to increase their lighting. Cities continue to light up the sky without a care in the world. Meanwhile, we lose a little more of the natural darkness that once defined our world, but at what cost? My aim is to explore how light pollution can be reduced, not only to save money, but to preserve ecosystems, improve human health, and to bring the Milky Way back into our view. With the use of technology, smart policies, and community action, I hope to provide a path to reduce light pollution. Light pollution can be defined as an inappropriate or excessive use of artificial light, and can be broken down into 4 key different types: sky glow, glare, light trespass, and clutter. Each form of light pollution is distinct in its reason for existing, and its prevalence, as well as the solution for each type, differs from one another. Sky glow is defined as the brightening of the night sky, usually found in highly populated areas by artificial light at night, or ALAN for short, and is reflected off of the clouds, water particles, and the night sky. This results in the night sky looking more like a gray wall than a starry sky, and serves as the most obvious form of light pollution. Sky glow keeps those living in the city from seeing the stars and other celestial phenomena. Glare can be defined as the excessive use of light which shines upwards and directly into our eyes, causing visual discomfort and reducing visibility. At night, it is especially irritating because of the contrast from dark to light and from our eyes adapting to the environment. Glare can be dangerous, especially for drivers and pedestrians. The third type of light pollution is light trespass, which happens when unwanted or undirected light trespasses into areas where it was not directly intended to shine. Light trespass is the intrusive form of light pollution and can cause disturbances for those at night who are trying to sleep. The fourth and final type of light pollution is clutter. Clutter happens in cities when the overuse of artificial light at night creates a chaotic visual light show. They appear in the form of neon signs, street lights, billboards, and more. Clutter tends to be in high concentrations in cities, and in the chaotic form of light pollution, It contributes to the visual beauty of cities such as New York and is seen as visual chaos. Flagstaff, Arizona, a city north of Phoenix, is the founding location of Dark Sky International and is an organization which exists to help spread awareness of light pollution and to help inform people of its severity. They do this by holding events at Dark Sky International parks to help spread awareness of light pollution as well as show the beauty of the night sky. Other dark sky associations also help to spread awareness about light pollution, such as the Flagstaff Dark Skies Coalition, or FDSC for short, and is based out of Arizona. Their organization has compiled what they believe to be a sound and viable solution to the light pollution tragedy that we find ourselves in today. From their website, we provide quality guidance through example and sound information on policy, science, and process to enable others to join Flagstaff in creating a world where everyone can see the Milky Way. And that's from flagstaffskies.org. The coalition also holds the following mission statement. We believe that everyone, regardless of socioeconomic status, should be able to see the Milky Way in a dark sky that is cherished by their community and beneficial for all life.
My name is Chris Luginbuhl. I'm a retired astronomer in Flagstaff, Arizona. A 30-plus year career at the United States Naval Observatory Flagstaff Station. During much of my time at the observatory, I worked on protecting the dark skies from an astronomical perspective. But then before I retired, and then increasingly after I retired, I focused more on community values, cultural values of dark sky protection with the Flagstaff Dark Skies Coalition, which is, and I'm the president of the board. And our effort is really to raise awareness that dark skies are of value broadly in our society and to all people, not just to astronomers or stargazers. And that's what I do now.
But when I was reading about the FDSC, one of the things that really inspired me is that you guys not only believe that, astronomers should be able to see all the stars, but also everybody should, regardless of where you're at on the earth, and even if you're in the inner city, you should still be able to see the beauty of the night sky. So,
Yeah, and not just should in a like we deserve it kind of perspective, but also should in the fact that it's actually technically achievable.
Yeah.
People don't realize how much the light pollution that we suffer and live under is really a consequence of careless lighting use, not simply a consequence of lighting use. Most of it is because we use light carelessly at night with really little thought or regard to the environmental impacts. And it's one of the pollutions that's the easiest to solve, it turns out.
Yeah.
And the dark sky movement has been saying that the technical solutions to light pollution are actually technically simple. I mean, there are concepts that third graders could understand, I'm fond of saying, like shield the light and shine it where you need it. Don't use more than you need. Those are simple things conceptually to do, but it's remarkable how little we have done them over the decades and really a century or more that we've been using light at night. And because of that, the light pollution, which we have, has really overwhelmed us, as you and I talked about earlier. It's, most people who live in this country and even around the world, in the developed world, can't see the Milky Way. So it's a huge negative consequence, but it's really something that we ought to be able to technically solve and bring back for most people. And the message that Flagstaff is really realizing that it has is that by having proven the concept on the ground here, actually adopting those simple standards in an effectively written way so that they're not just, you should do this or you should do that, but rather really you have to do this or you have to do that.
Yeah.
Then you really can make a huge difference. And in the town of, approximately 80,000 or more, we can see the Milky Way pretty much anywhere. Now, we don't see it like we see in the picture behind my head here,
Yeah.
a pristine sky everywhere in the city. but we can see the Milky Way well enough anywhere in the city to know that it's there. And that's something that really is a stunning message that really proves the concept that that light pollution up there that people suffer under is to large part unnecessary. It isn't just a consequence of using the light at night. It's a consequence of using the light without regard to how carefully we use it.
For millions of years, all different kinds of species have evolved with the night in a harmonious rhythm of the day and night cycle. However, today the night is disappearing. Artificial light is a pervasive threat to nocturnal species, moths, which play a vital role as pollinators and are often drawn to light instead of flowers, disrupting ecosystems and reducing plant reproduction rates. Sea turtles, which are already endangered, face the obstacles of artificial light. Sea turtle hatchlings instinctively move towards the brightest horizon, traditionally the moonlight reflecting off the ocean. But in many places, that light is now drowned out by lighting clutter from hotels and streetlights, sending them in the wrong direction and towards highways to certain death. The same light that illuminates our nights also disrupts migratory birds, whose navigation system relies on the stars. Thousands of these birds, disoriented by sky glow, crash into buildings every year, reducing populations of an already vulnerable species. If it wasn't bad enough that light pollution affects the environment, it affects us as well. Every night, as artificial light floods our homes and cities, it disrupts something fundamental: our connection to the rhythms of nature and the health of our bodies. Humans evolved to live in cycles of light and darkness, but artificial light disrupts this natural rhythm, suppressing melatonin production, a hormone vital for sleep and overall health. Our bodies and eyes are sensitive to artificial light, and it affects our melatonin production in drastic ways. Chronic exposure to artificial light at night is linked to insomnia, a condition affecting millions of people worldwide, but the consequences don't stop there. Light pollution creates a chain reaction of sorts. Light pollution leads to melatonin suppression, which leads to circadian disruption, which leads to an increased risk of obesity, prostate, and breast cancer, as well as heart disease. Studies reveal that circadian disruption increases the risk of obesity, cardiovascular disease, and even cancer in the form of prostate and breast cancer. Yet these conditions remain underreported and under-researched. I cannot stress enough how much of an immediate threat this could be to our health. We do not fully understand how much of our health is tied to the light pollution issue, and light pollution is rampant. While water pollution and air pollution are taken as an immediate threat and dealt with as such, light pollution continues to go under the radar and is spreading rapidly.
It's hard for anybody to care about something that they aren't aware of. And the things that you don't see on a particularly a daily basis, but even ever, yeah, how can you be aware about what a star-filled sky does to your soul if you never see one?
Exactly.
So and unfortunately, it's a thing that feeds on itself. So once you get to a condition where you can't see the stars anymore, you become less aware of them, you care about them less, so you don't pay attention, or you're not motivated to pay attention to how light pollution is generated. So it continues to get worse.
We do not know what it's doing to us or our bodily health fully, and we must do more research and figure out what is going on. If we do not, I fear that as time goes on, more people will suffer unknowingly, and in the future, we will eventually find that light pollution is doing far more damage to us than that it seems at face value. This lack of understanding makes light pollution an especially concerning issue, as we do not understand the impact of it fully. Despite growing evidence, the issue is still new to science, and much remains unexplored. Dark Sky International was created just 36 years ago. Our awareness of this problem is truly recent.
So it could
ideal,
it could have economic value to the tourism sector of any community, But I would say that there are other ways which are more difficult to quantify in terms of economic measures, and that is in terms of the peace of mind and the quality of life of the people who live there.
And that's the thing. That's a very, very big. That's probably one of the most important things that is not taken into consideration from an
Right,
economics perspective. I
right.
agree with you 110%, 150%. Absolutely.
People talk about, what do they talk about? The gross domestic. They talk about ways of measuring
GDP and all that, and like
the
measuring a
ways
country's
of measuring
output.
the.
Yeah,
They
and
talk about
trade.
ways. They talk about ways of measuring the value or the quality of life. And one of them they focus on is GDP or per capita GDP and these various numbers, which are nice because you can take a number of dollars and you can divide it by a number of people, and it's a nice number you can come up with.
Yeah,
But a lot of discussion about the quality of life recognizes that we're missing sometimes some really important aspects of quality of life by focusing on these numbers. And
yeah,
that's why you may get a higher GDP in one country, but the people in another country might be happier.
yeah, right.
Yeah, and when you're trying to develop a quantitative science, it's
Yeah,
hard it's hard to quantify things like that. It's easy to
yeah,
take a number of dollars and divide it by a number of people.
yeah,
But it's hard to say, how happy are those people and how do you measure that and what factors influence it and how do you measure those factors?
yeah.
Um, I have heard people talk about the fact that being inspired or feeling a sense of awe actually has been shown. I don't know how, but I've read recently that these actually have quantifiable health benefits to people.
Of course. Of
But I don't know how to
course.
do it.
Right. So I ask you, what other consequences might we be missing? What impacts on human health and human development have we yet to uncover? It's not just about what we lose in terms of health. It's about losing that sense of awe, discovery, and connection to the universe. If people aren't aware of these things, if they aren't aware that they exist, they can't advocate for what they don't know that they've lost. As the Flagstaff Dark Skies Coalition puts it, the mission is to protect and restore the natural nighttime environment. But this isn't just about stars. It's about our health, our humanity, and what it means to live in harmony with the world around us. Until you start letting the people know what's happening as far as, again, the glare and this concept of safety, it sounds like you can pretty much start making progress with people, hopefully, as long as they're willing, right?
Right. It's a win-win situation. You'll hear DSI use that phraseology quite a bit, and the dark sky movement in general tries to emphasize that. That really we're not talking about one segment of society giving up something so somebody else can have something, that everybody has to give up safety or security or visibility in the night so that
Yeah.
the people who care about dark skies can see the sky. We can have both. Absolutely, we can have both. And that's not pie in the sky
Mm-hmm.
stuff. That's real true. And Flagstaff has proven it. You can see, we don't have more crime than anybody else. Our
Yeah.
economic development is fine. The community grows, franchises locate here and get along just fine. And in fact, being able to see the sky is a huge economic benefit as well, because there is a huge yearning in our culture to see the night sky, especially for people who, if they, like I said at the beginning, when people don't see the sky, they're not aware of it, they don't value it. But in
Mm-hmm.
fact, I think that's maybe not quite true. They've seen it a little bit here or there, or they've seen pictures of it,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a yearning for it. There's a kind of a natural, we're naturally kind of afraid of the dark. That's part of the human condition. I think there's also a yearning for connection to the universe around us,
Oh,
to the
absolutely.
environment, to a dark sky. So that yearning really is a driver for people to say, hey, if I can get this benefit from my community without having to give up anything on the ground, safety or utility or economic growth, then why not? Of course. And
Yeah.
once we make that case, uh, then I think that everybody would support it.
The solution to light pollution doesn't just benefit our ecosystems, but they protect our health and restore our innate connection with the night. By taking action now, we can ensure a future where stars and our health remains bright. In our pursuit for modern convenience, we've lit up the night, but at what cost? The impacts of light pollution aren't just environmental or personal. They ripple through our economies and cultural identities, and in ways we are only beginning to understand. Economically, there are many reasons to discuss light pollution. A large portion of light pollution is caused by the use of light when light is not being used in a meaningful manner. This misuse of light creates wasted energy, which would otherwise be used for later usage. A restructuring of our lighting systems would yield a decrease in energy needed to power the city lights at night.
You can focus on, as I often do personally, the aesthetic or cultural dimensions of it, the fact that we can't see the Milky Way. But in fact, just like you said, producing that light is wasting energy.
Yeah.
It's decreasing visibility very often. The light that shines sideways and goes way out, far away from the fixture, and in what place it is not usefully lighting the ground, is causing glare, which makes it harder to see.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that one of the founders of IDA, or Dark Sky International, now is its name, he said, Dr. David Crawford, he used to say that once I just teach you these basic concepts of how to use light sensibly, you will never again be able to walk out in the night environment without seeing things that cause you pain. Because
Yeah.
everything you look at is like, why did they do that?
Yeah.
And most people, why did they shine that light sideways? Why is it shining upwards? What makes them think that that's okay or
Yeah.
that it's important? So it's a concept that you'll get after just, 10 minutes or 20 minutes of looking at the concepts, shielding like you talked about,
Yeah.
or the shining it into the area you need it, not the area you don't need it, or not using it at 3 in the morning. Or there's other concepts as well that are less obvious, but most of them are obvious like that. But once you learn that basic stuff, boy, it's remarkable how blatant the errors that we commit every time we put lights up.
They don't even think about it. People don't even think about it, and that's the thing, right? You gotta get them to think about it, and it's because once you notice everywhere you go, you
Right.
notice with these lights.
You can't unsee it once you see it.
Here are some direct costs of light pollution. It is estimated that 30% of all outdoor lighting in the United States is wasted, costing the country over $3 billion annually in energy expenses. This waste also contributes significantly to carbon dioxide emissions. There's a $7 billion annual cost to electricity wasted from outdoor lighting, 30% of which is wasted in the US. Wasted light from outdoor lighting, light that is emitted directly into the sky, remains constantly on average at 30% of total light emitted from public lighting. That's 30% of light just wasted. It is worth pointing out that regardless of lighting systems that are installed, newer systems will need to be installed eventually once the current infrastructure starts to fail. And when that time comes, it is without a doubt the best possible option to take advantage of that situation and install the correct smart lighting to start seeing the benefits that traditional lighting wouldn't garner. Light pollution comes with hidden costs, both tangible and intangible. These costs don't just stop at energy waste. It's about what it means to lose the night sky. Tourism, too, bears the brunt of light pollution. Astrotourism, a growing industry that thrives on pristine night skies, gathers waves of tourists annually. But for every dark sky lost to light pollution, so too is the revenue and wonder it inspires. The economic rewards are clear for those who embrace dark sky initiatives and policies. These regions attract visitors who seek not just recreation, but that sense of wonderment, awe, and discovery. But the costs go beyond what we can easily measure. Light pollution threatens biodiversity, disrupting ecosystems that provide essential services like natural water purification. As ecosystems falter, the strains on our economic and environmental goals grows heavier. How much more will we spend to replace what nature once provided for free? These unknown economic losses are just beginning to surface, but the urgency to act and to do more research is undeniable. Throughout history, the night sky has been more than just a bunch of lights in the sky. It has been a source of stories, science, spirituality. Losing it means losing a shared heritage that connects us across cultures and generations. To lose it is a disservice to ourselves and to all of those who came before us. What happens to our imagination and sense of discovery when the stars fade from view? How can we inspire curiosity and that same awe in the generations to come without the beauty of the Milky Way? The economic and cultural losses from light pollution are staggering, but they're not inevitable. By reclaiming and preserving the night, we not only save resources, but we save the world from more potential damage. That same damage, which is understudied, is relatively new and may be doing more harm than we fully realize. The way we light our world has profound impacts, not just on our visibility, but our environment, our health, and our future. Technological innovations and changes have offered solutions, but only if we adopt them wisely. Smart lighting changes the way many cities and parks have adjusted their infrastructural lighting. By adjusting brightness based on activity, they ensure light is available only when and where it is needed, reducing both energy use and light pollution. These adaptive systems save energy and protect the night sky by minimizing unnecessary brightness during off-peak hours. Shielded lighting is another simple yet effective solution. By directing light downward, shielding eliminates glare and prevents light from scattering into the sky, reducing sky glow and preserving visibility. Without shielding, bright lights create glare and harsh shadows, making visibility worse rather than better. Motion sensors and timers are practical tools for reducing unnecessary light. They activate only when movement is detected, ensuring illumination is available when needed and conserving energy when it's not. LED technology has revolutionized lighting, but not all LEDs are equal. Standard LEDs emit significant amounts of blue light and green light, which disrupts ecosystems and human sleeping patterns. Low blue and green spectra LEDs, however, offer a warmer light that reduces these effects. Low blue and green spectra LEDs are particularly vital near wildlife habitats and residential areas, where minimizing wildlife disruption and circadian disruption is crucial.
In fact, let me underscore what you just said.
Yeah.
Most organizations, including me for most of my career, would really lead off with saying shielding is number one.
Shielding is number one.
Then spectrum is somewhere down the road. In fact, in terms of measuring the impact on the brightness of the sky, which is only one way of measuring light pollution, there are others like glare and trespass and health impacts, etc. But the brightness of the night sky is an important one. In terms of that, spectrum is number one, hands down. We need to get away from white light use broadly and focus more on only using white light where we need that accurate color perception. So that's number one, shielding is number two. In fact, if you shift from a low color temperature white LED to even what used to be the common amber lighting of high pressure sodium, you cut sky brightness down without changing lighting level on the ground 1 foot candle.
Wow.
Just by changing spectrum, you cut down 75%. The brightness of the sky will drop to 25% of what it used to be. Shielding will give you another 50% on top of that. So it's a dramatic improvement to shield your lights for the glow of the sky, but it's a smaller impact than the spectrum is.
So you're saying spectrum 75 and then you said shielding's 50?
Yep.
Wow.
And you put those two together, you're down to, you cut it down to 25% of what it would be by going to amber, and then you shield it, you cut it by another 50%. You know where you are? Instead of a 25%, you're at 12 or 12.5%. Wow. Right there, you're almost a 90% reduction in the brightness of your sky.
Holy.
And you know what?
That's yeah.
That's what Flagstaff has measured its sky is actually about 92% fainter than another town of similar size that we compared quantitatively with, and that happens to be Cheyenne, Wyoming. I don't want to point fingers at Cheyenne and tell them they're bad, but they are an example of a community of similar size to Flagstaff who doesn't have any particular history of trying to protect the night skies. So there is an example of what happens if you don't know it or pay attention to it, and compared to Flagstaff, and we're more than 90% better. And most of that comes from the spectrum and the shielding.
In a paradoxical sort of way, poorly designed lighting creates glare and dark shadows, making these spaces less safe. By contrast, well-designed lighting ensures an even, adequate illumination, improving safety while reducing light pollution. Thoughtful lighting doesn't just benefit the outdoors. It preserves the night for everyone, indoors and out. With smart lighting, shielding, motion sensors, and low blue and green spectra LEDs, we can use these new technologies to help us find that balance, which in turn helps us light our world responsibly while minimizing damage to our ecosystems, the night sky, and our budgets. Reducing light pollution isn't just about technology. It's about the policies we enact and the communities that bolster the cause. Communities and people are proving that protecting the night sky is not only possible, but achievable. Flagstaff was the first international dark sky city, and it happened because the people there care a lot about the night sky. Proactive policies, which require smart lighting policies, like light shielding, have helped facilitate Flagstaff as what it is today, a reminder of what we could be. The Flagstaff Dark Skies Coalition has shown how local governments and communities can work together to set standards that prioritize both safety and the natural environment. Through their advocacy, the FDSC has helped cities, parks, and communities adopt ordinances that reduce unnecessary lighting and preserve natural darkness.
In 2021, we have formed a new vision based on realizing what we have done here in Flagstaff and realizing that it is a on the ground proof of concept that the rest of the world can really benefit from. And the way and we've realized how much they can benefit from it by looking at the science of light pollution and how it is influenced by the way we use light at night. And what we've realized, and I've alluded to this earlier in our conversation, is that these shielding and spectrum controls by themselves, and there are other controls or other ways of reducing light pollution we touched on, like controls, turning it off later at night, or cutting down overlighting. You don't have to have a service station lit so bright that you could do office work underneath it.
Yeah.
But just those first two, spectrum and shielding, approximately 88 to 90% improvement. What that has led us to realize is that the Milky Way can be restored nearly everywhere. And this is our new vision, a world in which everyone, regardless of socioeconomic status, can see the Milky Way in a dark sky from where they live.
Yeah.
And what that means is, and this is not pie in the sky, we need to get this message out that this is a realistic, achievable goal with demonstrated practices that have been proven to work to protect dark skies and at the same time provide lighting that people need to operate safely and vibrantly at night. And that is a place where you can see the Milky Way everywhere. And we think that that includes nearly all urban areas as well, including large urban areas.
The key to effective policies lies in balance. Successful initiatives focus on reducing light pollution while meeting safety and economic needs. Policies like these often include requiring fully shielded lighting to minimize sky glow, implementing curfews for non-essential lighting in commercial areas, adopting energy-efficient lighting technologies like low blue and green spectra lighting, and zoning laws that limit light emissions near sensitive ecosystems. The power of community advocacy cannot be overstated. When people understand what's at stake, the health impacts, the environmental damage, and the lost cultural connections, they become the best advocates for change. Once they see what they're missing out on, people start to take action and care more. Efforts like those led by the Flagstaff Dark Skies Coalition has shown that the change starts with awareness and education. Once people see the difference, they're inspired to act.
With a 90% reduction, the Milky Way would come back. So we think that vision is achievable. And we know our first hurdle is going to be convincing the world that that is an achievable vision.
Yeah.
But then once they realize it, think how that will motivate people who live in large urban areas now. When I give talks to people on light pollution, I oftentimes ask the audience, hey, where are you from? Are you from Flagstaff? Are you from a big area, a big city? And all the people who are from big metropolitan areas, I often ask them, do you care about dark skies? And I'm talking about dark skies, so most of them usually do. And I asked them, do you think you could be able to restore the Milky Way in your community? And all of them look kind of sad and shake their heads. So why would they struggle to raise their standards for the way they do lighting and confront all the misunderstandings and misinformation about dark sky protection if they don't think there's anything on the other side to gain?
Yeah.
But if they realize that, hey, we could get the Milky Way back, boy, that can motivate people to try. And you've got to have people to try before you'll ever get anywhere. So that's what we're really hoping, that this message will start to turn around this tide of isolation and separation from the night sky overhead. Across the country, in towns of 100,000 and less, in towns of 100,000 and more. Everybody ought to be able to see. And further, here's a really good point that we've realized, that dark sky places are wonderful. And if you've ever been to Grand Canyon, or you've been to Cherry Springs, or any of these places where the sky is still dark, you know how that can move you. You know the value that has. But you know, not everybody has the time to travel to those locations or the resources to have their kids, come along with them, to pay for travel or overnight accommodations. Not everybody has that. But if you bring back the stars where they live, it doesn't matter whether they live under a bridge or they live in $1 million mansion, the stars come back to where they are. That's what we mean by regardless of socioeconomic status. If we can bring back the Milky Way in urban areas, then everybody gets stars.
The policies help advocate for reclaiming the night, for wildlife, for human health, and for future generations. By adopting smarter policies and empowering communities, we can create a world where the stars once again belong to everyone. The fight against light pollution doesn't just happen with technology or policy. It starts with people. Individuals, communities, and local governments all have a role to play in reclaiming the night sky. It starts with awareness. If you don't know what you're losing, it's hard to care. But once people see what's possible, the stars, the ecosystem benefits, they want to take action. Everyone can do something, whether it's installing shield fixtures at home, advocating for smarter lighting policies in your community, or just turning off unnecessary lights. Local governments can lead the way by passing ordinances that reduce light pollution, but we need community support to create change. Stargazing events have been used in the FDSC's and the DSI's past to help foster this rediscovering of night sky values. Online resources can help educate the public about light pollution's effects and how to address them. So, what can you do? It starts at home. Simple procedures such as using shielded light fixtures and switching to low blue and green spectra LEDs or bug lights can significantly reduce your light pollution footprint. Another good rule of thumb is that if you aren't using an outdoor light, turn it off and readjust those lights to not shine in areas that you don't need to be illuminated. At the community level, organizing events, advocating for dark sky ordinances, and encouraging local businesses to adopt smart lighting practices can make a lasting impact for lighting. Local governments have the power to enact change through policies that mandate shielded lighting, set curfews for non-essential lights, and promote energy-efficient technologies. Using warm lighting, which are low in the blue and green spectrum, advocating for smarter policies in our communities. Together, we can bring back the night. Through the adoption of smart lighting technologies, supporting dark sky initiatives, and implementing policy changes, we can reduce light pollution by as much as 75 to 95%. And together, we can bring back the Milky Way. All right, well, we've been talking for a while now. I mean, I think I've asked you pretty much everything I wanted to ask you. If there's anything else you want to say,
Well,
by all means.
yeah, I just hope that the world can realize that, as we say, the Milky Way is within reach for nearly everybody. And if they think about it, I think they'll realize that to the vast majority of people, that's something worth getting. And once they realize that, and they realize that they don't have to give up anything to get that, they get better visibility, they get lower energy, they get lower environmental impacts, everything is better. And they get the Milky Way back. What's not to love about it?
Yeah.
And I think that that message needs to be more clearly gotten out there. Even though we've been working on dark skies awareness for 40 plus years, I don't think the clarity of that last couple of steps has really been established as well as it needs to be. We've been talking about shielding and we've talking about all these benefits, but we've never really quite drawn the final ultimate conclusion, and that is how much we can gain by doing this, and that we don't have to give up anything to get it. I think everybody who would argue against it, there's nothing easier to sell than an inspiring view of a night sky. And if people realize that's within reach, I don't think there's anybody who wouldn't go for it.
So to close out, the night sky is a shared treasure, connecting us to our history, our imagination, and the universe beyond. But it's slipping away, and we can change it. Together, we can bring back the Milky Way. It's a completely possible thing to see happen, and is very feasible to do. By implementing smart lighting technologies during routine lighting upgrades, infrastructure upgrades, we could reduce light pollution by as much as 95%, estimated 75 to 95%. If you wish to support the Dark Sky Initiative, visit darksky.org and learn more. There you will learn more about light pollution and how to take action. Together, my hope is that we can bring back the night and the Milky Way. And the time to act is now.
Well, the coalition has that guidance, but the dark sky advocates in general have not gotten it out there well enough, broadly enough yet. And I think we need to get some assistance of national standards setting agencies, people that have been involved in, setting standards for how buildings are built, for example, or bridges are built. We need to get standards out there that are that professionally defined.
That's good to know. In my paper, there was a question that I proposed was, should there be any national standards on lighting? And I said that since every community is very different, I don't know what the best option would be for national standards for lighting. But from what you're telling me, it's possible and it should be happening. We should be pursuing it.
I believe that it should be. I
Sure.
used to think when I got involved in dark skies, and I helped light a lot of lighting codes, probably at least 2 dozen communities. I was involved in helping to write lighting codes. And at the beginning, I very much approached it that way. I thought, well, here's a suggestion, but you may want to have different priorities in your community and want to focus more on this or that. I feel well less that way now. I feel that what is better for night skies is better from every perspective. And there's really no trade-offs that one community would want to have, less strict standards about shielding. There is no benefit to be had by
Yeah.
relaxing shielding standards. You can make it easier, but you actually make the lighting worse as well. So my feeling is that we really should have a national level of a standard that is basically more or less the same everywhere within us for the large part. That
Yeah.
doesn't even building codes, communities put little addendums on them to say, here's some special little extra bits we're going to add to the building code that express something about local values or priorities.
Yeah.
But those are minor changes, not major changes. You don't
Hmm.
change how big a tread on a stair could be. You don't mess
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's based on the safety of using a step. And how high should a handrail be? You don't
Hmm.
change those.
Yeah.
You might want to change, what colors of paint are appropriate or other things which are twiddling around in the edges. Likewise for outdoor lighting standards. I think that to the 80 or 90% level or more, we ought to have a standard level because it's been demonstrated to be beneficial from every perspective and it shouldn't be controversial. And then at the 5 or 10% level, you can twiddle, some here, this or that or the other thing.
Yeah. If that's what it takes, if a national standard is necessary to make all this happen, and not only just to do that, but to get the word out on a lot of these situations, it could do a lot of publicity work for the dark sky movement.
Sure.
And there, you are 100% right. The more I think about it, there's no real win on diverting from these recommendations, these policy recommendations at all, especially in regards to like glare and light trespass and sky glow and the amber and yeah.
The whole idea that we ought to be able to tweak and soften various things is based on a misperception that by doing the best dark sky friendly lighting, you've had to give up something else.
Yeah.
If you've decided that dark skies aren't so important, maybe you want to give up less of the other thing. But that's a misperception, a gross misperception of what we're looking for in terms of dark sky perception or dark sky protection, excuse me. And that's what Flagstaff's lighting standards have shown, is that you're not giving up anything. You're protecting the night sky dramatically and at the same time having demonstrably effective lighting on the ground. In fact, if we could find ways of measuring, I'm sure with less glare, you can see better. It's hard to measure that, but you drop, like you say, you look at your neighbor who has a shielded porch light and it just looks more welcoming. It's better visibility. It's more attractive.
It is. And
And measuring those, quantifying those feelings is harder. But
it is.
I think that Flagstaff has shown that you can do lighting like that and you're not giving anything up.